Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Thursday. Today we're going to be talking about 5 ideas of crafts we can do for Imbolc. Now, originally I had hoped that I would have my materials and my crafty stuff all set up and ready to go. I was going to attempt to do kind of a craft along as we talked about it, but that's not happening, unfortunately. My supplies have not arrived on time, so we're just going to talk about this. We're going to make do, and hopefully it'll get you in the mood to do a little bit of crafting in preparation for this about yourself. Or, hopefully if you haven't tried some of these things before, you think, I'll give it a go. I think it's really important to emphasize, the physical aspects of our craft and um, and just bringing things into our environment that are very specific to our spots, specific to our beliefs and our own traditions, being able to live that path because what we have in our environments and our homes, specifically what we make, it says a great deal about us and our beliefs, and it's another way of living the path. So let's begin. Obviously, Bridget's cross is a traditional component of Imbolc decorations. The purpose of it is to serve as a symbolic form of protection and also as a request for the goddess Bridget to come and bless our home. Where it can be placed is usually outside the front door the night before Imbolc, or near any other exterior doors in an attempt to ward off ill luck, especially when this is combined with an offering of grain cakes or grass or an oatmeal cookie. We have a little room for creativity there, and it's all about, asking for that blessing, asking for that goodness. So in order to make a Bridget's cross, we'll need some materials. We could use straw or other stiff stems. Anything with a very stiff stem we could probably use. Some people use pipe cleaners if needs be, and there are other crafting materials. The main thing is that you need something that's stiff but that can also be physically manipulated. There, we'll need a thread or string, wire, floral wire. Oh, geez, I'm okay, I promise. Or rubber bands, and this will be for tying off the arms of the cross. And if you're using straw or a dried stem, you'll also need a dish or a tray that's long enough and big enough to hold the material so it can soak for 24 hours. If you happen to have snow during this time period, you can bring in the snow and you can use the melted snow as a means of softening the straw. It just adds a little bit more energy of the season to it. So for the construction of it, there are instructions available all over the internet. They're all pretty straightforward. Again, I'm sorry that I don't have the materials to demonstrate it myself because I promise you this is not an intimidating project at all. But I would estimate that, the amount of time it would take, kind of from start to finish would probably be less than 15 minutes as long as you don't overthink the process. And then once completed, you'll need to bless the crosses and then you can hang them up until you make ones for next year. The materials for this project, all told, would probably cost less than $20. So even if you're on a super limited budget, this is probably something you would be able to kind of gather enough quarters together to come and do. The second craft idea that I thought is, still kind of inexpensive and relatively easy to do is candle dressing. We can dress our candles for a wide variety of purposes, but for Imbolc, it's about enhancing the energy of the candle to amp up the magic during ritual, especially if we have a very specific intent with the ritual. We're really wanting to tie in with the ideas of healing or renewal or any other major theme of Imbolc. It's a way of tailoring our altar for that. And that's really where this candle would go, on the altar. Although you could place a candle anywhere in your home if you are wanting or needing a little bit of an extra energy boost. It's up to you, but definitely the altar, I think, would be the first choice. Now, for the materials for this project, you'll need a candle or candles. It depends on, how involved you're wanting this project to be. You can use taper candles or pillar candles, votives. It's all ideal for this use. You'll need some essential oils that correspond with Imbolc or with your magical intentions for your ritual. Some suggested essential oils would be cedar or peppermint, basil, cinnamon, or even lemon. I added the lemon on there because by the time we get to Imbolc, we are starting to see the days grow in a noticeable way. We have more of that sunlight, and it's never a bad idea during February to try to coax the sun to come out just a little bit more. I imagine for most people, by the time we get to Imbolc, the seasonal depression, if it hasn't already set in, it will be doing so swiftly. So using the lemon to encourage that return of the sun is just something we can do. We would also could use a carrier oil for this project if we want to. We'll need disposable gloves or cotton swabs or paper towels or soft cloth. That way we can apply the oils to the candles without having to actually touch the oils themselves. The reason, of course, is because essential oils, even when they are diluted by a carrier oil, they can be very harsh on bare skin. So it's best to avoid direct contact unless you have something formulated that is specifically skin safe. But if you are new to using essential oils, it doesn't hurt to err on the side of caution. You don't want to give yourself a rash. I once put cinnamon essential oil in my bath water, and although it gave me a very nice roasty toasty feeling, it it was a little much, and I did give myself a little bit of a rash. So learn from my experience. You don't have to suffer if you can observe other people's mistakes and learn from them. Next, for materials, we'll need a sealable container for mixing multiple oils if you're going to have an oil blend. And if you do decide to do this, mix them together ahead of time. Kind of keep this in a container in the advance of dressing your candle, and then give that container a shake every couple days to ensure that the oils stay mixed. So obviously you'll want to make sure that it's watertight. And you may want to experiment with the different blends. Not every scent is going to be very nice when it's blended together, and different people have different tolerance levels for the strength of scents. So experiment, do what's right for you. Now, for the construction, this is the fun part. What you do is that you drizzle a small amount of the oil directly onto the candle, and then using your cloth or your towel or cotton swab, you spread that oil evenly on the candle. And to further customize this, you can use a special paint that's suitable for painting on candles. And you can, paint pictures or words or symbols that further emphasize your intentions. Some people who are very gifted in this area, they can make all kinds of pretty things. But for the rest of us who do not have the same skill set, we can still do a little bit. This isn't an art contest. The gods aren't judging the quality of our artwork, only the purity of our hearts. Another option for customization is to carve into the candle directly, but of course it goes without saying, be careful when using sharp, pointy things, and if the kids are around, probably a good idea to keep them out of their reach. For further customization, some people like to decorate the candle by attaching ribbons or charms, pieces of dried plants. Just use your imagination and have fun with it. You have a lot of different options. There's a lot of different things you can kind of pile onto it. It's just really about what's available to you. So because of that, it's harder to predict how much this project is likely to cost because there are a lot of variables in regards to what materials you want to use and whether or not you're dressing multiple candles. So it's okay to go simplistic with this. It doesn't have to be something that's kind of over the top. It can be if you want to, and I think it's fun to do that. But if you're needing to be watching the pennies right now, don't feel that if it's just oil plus candle. That's perfectly fine. It gets the job done. Next, a traditional craft for Imbolc is the making of corn dollies. If you haven't already made one at Lunasa, if you made one at Lunasa and you saved it, you can use it for Imbolc as well. But if you didn't, this is your opportunity to make one. The purpose of this is that the corn dolly will symbolize the goddess Bridget, especially if you then place the doll in the crib with the Priapak wand. It represents fertility in that context and a return of life to the land itself. Where you might place this is next to the fireplace, but not close enough to catch fire. Please don't burn down your house. I am not recommending that. Fire demands respect. Or you can also put it onto your altar as kind of the main focus for your Imbolc ritual, and that can be really fun, whether you're doing your ritual on your own, or you've got some other practitioners, or you're just having a family ritual with it. Make it a big deal, make it this special thing. We have really wonderful traditions, and sometimes, putting forth the effort and energy to make kind of a big deal out of it, it makes other people around us excited about us, makes us more excited about it, and we can have a little extra oomph to go along with our ritual. So to make it, materials you will need straw, reeds, dried grasses, corn stalks. At least one of the stalks we have should have a large seed head, and that'll be the head of the doll. From what I've been reading on various instructions, plan on collecting at least 10 to 15 very sturdy stalks. This is something that if you can forage for it, by all means do so. Otherwise, off to the craft store. They do have plenty of options. And you can add different things onto the corn dollies, decorative bits and bobs if you want to, ribbon, string, yarn, buttons, charms, crystals. If you want to, you can even dress the doll up as a bride, if you have good sewing skills. Again, this is you are limited only by your imagination, and of course, time and money, which is always the boring limitation we all contend with. But you have options, and this is another area in which you can really express yourself. So, to construct, instructions do vary. Some of the instructions I've seen are very complicated and confusing, and others are suspiciously simplistic. So, most sources I've consulted have suggested that this is a project that requires some practice. So don't be discouraged if your first attempt doesn't turn out the way that you want. It's okay. The fact that you made it counts. You have already been successful because you took the time and trouble to make it, and as time goes on, you can get better and better at it. And then again, this is another project in which the cost involved will vary depending on how you source your materials and how much you use. Now, a wreath for a Imbolc. The purpose of this is more decorative. I have a wreath for a Imbolc because it's pretty and because it makes me feel happy, and it's a nice seasonal touch on my front door. And you could put a wreath on in the exterior door. Some people hang them up on windows. I've seen other people use them decoratively inside of the house. It's really up to you, but where I always place it is right on my front door. For the materials to make a wreath, you can get an inexpensive grapevine wreath. I bought my own at Walmart, a few years ago. I think it cost about $4 at the time. I'm sure it costs a bit more now, but it is something that's very affordable. You'll also need seasonal florals. You could get these freshly foraged if you wanted to. You could get dried. You could get faux flowers and foliage. It just depends on where you're at, what's available, and what your budget is. For some ideas of the things we could use, flowers like crocus, snowdrops, or even daffodils. These are really good options, but use what's available to you, what gives you Imbolc vibes, and what's attractive to your eye. For me, I always lean towards using a lot of white on the Imbolc wreath. I think it just symbolizes that purity of the snow, and occasionally we do have a few brave flowers kind of sticking their heads up, and they're usually whites or very, very soft violets, occasionally a very, very soft pink. The most pastel of the pastels, to where the color is barely there, just a hint of that color. I like it because it's a hint of the season to come. You could also use ribbon on your wreath. You can use your crystals, your charms, any other symbols. I always have a pentacle of some kind on my wreath. Right now, I made one out of craft sticks and really shiny white yarn, and that's serving as the pentacle, and it's the main part of my wreath. But after winter's over, I have a little small wooden pentacle that used to be part of a necklace, but I've liked using it on my wreath instead. So it's always there as an additional symbol of protection, and of course, a declaration that, yes, this is a pagan household. Um, it doesn't seem to have caused any problems in my life. I'm not sure anyone has noticed or cared that it's there. So if you are in an area where you would feel comfortable doing that, go ahead, add a little bit of a pentacle, add a symbol that's meaningful to you. It's your house. If you can't express your faith in your house, then I'm not sure where you can. But to make a wreath, first, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. I don't claim to be an expert wreath maker or an expert at anything involving foliage or flowers. For me, it's always been a very intuitive, organic process. I pick stuff I like, and then I arrange it until I like the overall effect. But what I would recommend is to first pick which elements you want to have the most prominent impact on the wreath. I usually start with the foliage and I just stick it into the wreath directly. If you're nervous about things falling out, you can use floral wire or a glue gun. Those will really be your best friends. I never do because I switch out, the decorations on that wreath on a monthly basis. Not everyone is wanting to do that. Some people do prefer to have, multiple wreaths, and they, bring them out of storage, and they put them back up and put them back into storage when the season is past. That's fine. For me, I like changing it up. I like the creativity of doing something different. I'm not really much on anything that's pre-made when it comes to the floral arrangements around my house. I like to do it, and I like it to reflect, just what I'm wanting from it in that moment. But do not feel like you need to do things the way that I do. But after you have that strong element on your wreath, next you do is you fill in the rest of the wreath with your other materials. kind of to your taste. You know, this will be, you know, where you have your main flowers or your main symbols. This is kind of the, you know, the first thing you do is have the, you know, cover over the outline. Then you put in your kind of the other main elements, and then you add your final touches. So again, I switch out my wreath. It's worked really well. My wreath has lasted for over 6 years now. You know, it's a little sad, but you know, by the time I dress it each month, you know, it looks perfectly fine. So you can get a lot of mileage out of a single grapevine wreath. And again, this is a very intuitive process for me. I never have a plan in mind. As far as the plan goes, is that I might have a color scheme or a particular flower that I really want to highlight. But beyond that, it's just whatever makes me feel happy when I look at it. So experiment with your wreath making, keep working at it, make adjustments until you have a result that's pleasing to you. It might take you an afternoon. Really depends on you. And of course, this project, it can be as economical or as expensive as you choose to make it. It depends on what you already have on hand. I've been collecting faux flowers for many years now, and I just kind of reuse them every single year. So far, I haven't had too many casualties that had to be retired. So I've been getting a lot of mileage out of it. The expense will also depend on how much you choose to buy and where you buy it from. I would suggest being sensible and not breaking the bank. If you arrange something thoughtfully, you can get a pleasing effect even from the florals that you can buy at the Dollar Tree. For my part, I usually have a mixture of highs and lows. I'll have, you know, a couple of really good, pretty prominent pieces from someplace like Hobby Lobby, and the rest will be, you know, Dollar Tree, Dollar General, even Walmart. You know, just things like that kind, you know, and of course it's the intention with which you arrange it, and it's all in the details. It's all in the overall effect. Inexpensive things can look better than they actually are if you have an artistic eye and you just work with it until it looks good. And sometimes this takes a longer period of time. It can be a little fiddly, but if you don't mind that, this is definitely a project for you. Now, the last project I wanted to bring to your attention, I found on Pinterest, and it's called a seed cake offering. The purpose of this is that it's just another layer of offerings we can make during the Imbolc season or during our Imbolc ritual. It helps feed the birds, that keeps them going strong through late winter, and it honors the spirit of Imbolc. You know, it's that resurgence of life. It's nurturing that life. And of course, this is something that would be placed outdoors, you know, hung on a tree, on your porch. It just needs to be convenient and pleasant for the birds. And of course, if I would like to make this, if I do end up making this year, I'm going to have to be a little bit cautious about where I put it because there are plenty of stray cats in my area, and they do view the birds as a food source, and I don't want to. I don't want to lure the birds into their death. It's one thing if the cats earn their kill, but I don't want to be delivering the birds to them, if that makes sense. So for this project, what you'll need is water, gelatin, birdseed, some deep molds, and this is to give the seed cake shape, and you'll need some straws so you can make a hole in the cake so you can hang the cake later, and then string to hang the cakes. And the basic process of this is to boil the water, then mix in the gelatin, and stir until it's dissolved. And after you let the gelatin cool in a bowl for about 2 minutes, then you stir in the seeds. You dish this out into a mold. And it could be any size of mold. It needs to be able to cling together. But you have some options here, and you can find molds all over the place. You can really customize it. The one I saw demonstrated in the video had stars, which I thought looked pretty nice. And then as it's drying, you put in straws so that, you know, you have that hole. That way you'll be able to put your string through it later. And then after it dries, you remove the seed cakes from the molds, you add the twine, you hang them up in the trees for the birds, and you just let them find them naturally. And if you'd like to see more details or view how the process works, you can go to thewitchandwand.com. And in all likelihood, I think this is a project that could be achieved for under $30, even if you have to buy a mold. So, I hope this has got you in the mood for a little bit of crafting. I'm sure a lot of these ideas are familiar to you. I hope I hope it feels less intimidating or less of a hassle. And more than anything else, I hope you have fun with it. I would love to see your Imbolc creations at Blackbird's Brew. You are very welcome to join our Discord server. There's a link for it in the description box below. And in the meantime, please subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, like the video. I'll see you in the next one.